Is Sony already working on a prototype PS5 Slim? We know what Housemarque is working on after Returnal. Two big PlayStation franchises are allegedly coming back, and don't get the new version of Ghost of Tsushima on PS Plus before watching this video. We got a ton of stuff to talk about in today's episode of PlayStation News, so before we do, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications set to all. So you might not have heard of Housemarque before you got a PS5 and played Returnal, but they are one of the coolest developers around, and their story is actually pretty crazy. They've been making second-party exclusives for PlayStation for a long time now, but they have ventured out into other platforms. One game they made, I think, was called Outland, and it was like about a guy with a sword who could kind of switch between different colored worlds. It was an Xbox Live Arcade game. And then another game they made for PC, I'm pretty sure it was either Matterfall or Nex Machina. I always mix those games up. I'm pretty sure it's Nex Machina. They were really good games, but these guys always shined on PlayStation, and Returnal was so good on the PS5 that it got Sony to literally buy the studio. And that purchase could not have come at a better time, because before they made Returnal, they were working on a game called Storm Divers, which was like a battle royale. And they put out a note when they started working on that game where they said, yeah, we've made these really good arcade games that score super well with 9s and 10s, but the market never really supported it, so we have to like adapt or die. And then that battle royale game turned into Returnal, which is kind of like a new mix of third-person shooting and their classic styled arcade games. And it's like the best game they've ever made, except maybe Resogun, which is incredible. Now, I actually haven't beaten Returnal yet. I have sunk a ton of hours into it. I think it's really good, and I was kind of wondering if it was going to be a one-off experience or if it was going to get a sequel, because it's not necessarily a first-party PlayStation exclusive. It is now, but at the time it was made, it's a second-party exclusive because they're paying for the development, but they didn't own Housemarque at the time. So that's the difference between first-party and second-party. But thankfully, our days of wondering are over, because Housemarque basically just came out and said, yeah, we're working on a new IP. We are not doing a sequel to Returnal. We've got this new Sony budget. We've got this new Sony outlook. We're a first-party studio for real now, so we're going to make a for real first-party game. The actual statement was, it's early days with us starting a new game, a new IP, concepting it out. And that was from Housemarque's managing director, Sly Cooper. I don't know how to say this name. It's spelled Kuittinen. Please let me know down in the comments. So my gut reaction to this honestly is pretty good. I like Returnal. I think it's a pretty good game. It just didn't really hook me in terms of the story. So from that perspective, I don't necessarily need a sequel all that bad. And Housemarque has proven that they can make really good arcade style games that feel different from game to game. Like, they all have their own unique identity. So if they can keep what they learned with Returnal, making their first 3D third-person shooter type game, and apply it to something even bigger and better with a full-on first-party budget, that's honestly what I would have wanted them to do. And if they said they were making a sequel to Returnal, I probably would have complained and said, yeah, I wish they would have just gotten a bigger budget and worked on something new with lessons they learned from Returnal. What I do hope is that they stick in this horror-adjacent world. Returnal actually had some very creepy monster design. The level design was also pretty scary. It even had like PT-inspired levels where you're walking through a farmhouse on an alien planet, and I love those sections of the game. So if they're going to keep that vibe for their new game, I am all in. I'm just glad that they got picked up, honestly. I thought they were going to go away after Returnal came out and didn't light the sales world on fire, but it seems like Sony realized how good of a game that was on its slightly lower budget, and they made the smart decision to pick them up, because I bet that's a studio Microsoft would have eventually bought, or maybe even Embracer Group, or Tencent. You know, there's so many different companies buying up studios that don't sell their games at insane numbers now, that I'm glad Sony jumped in when they had the chance. But yeah, if you manage to get a PS5 in the next couple weeks, or you just got one, make sure you pick up Returnal. You can get it pretty cheap now at places like GameStop or Amazon, and it is well worth whatever you pay for it, unless it's more than $70, because then you overpaid. Speaking of Returnal though, that is a game I would really like to have on the Steam Deck, because I played so many of Housemarque's games on a handheld. If you want to see my unboxing of my brand new Steam Deck, check out my channel Deck Ready. It's linked down in the description. So in my last video, we talked about these big rumors for this state of play in March that's allegedly coming this month already, which is crazy. And there was a big PlayStation remake that was going to be apparently announced there for release by the end of the year. Now, we have heard rumors that the original Metal Gear Solid is getting remade, and it's going to be a ground up remake that also incorporates PlayStation VR 2, which sounds really cool, and I thought that's what we were eventually going to see at this state of play, just because the timing works out, and that game's supposed to launch with the PSVR 2 later this year. But as it turns out, it's going to be a sucker punch renaissance, because allegedly two of the games that we're going to see announced at this thing are Infamous coming back in a new game, and Sly Cooper coming back in what's probably going to be Sly 5. I'm just really excited about this for a couple reasons. First of all, Sucker Punch is one of my favorite PlayStation studios, and and I feel like they've kind of always been the underdog studio a little bit. Like Sony didn't really give them the same shine that they gave Naughty Dog for the longest time until Ghost of Tsushima comes out, and it's one of the best reviewed games on the PlayStation 4, and people kind of consider it the swan song for that console because it is just so good. Like with the PS3, the swan song of that console was definitely The Last of Us. With the PS4, it's Ghost of Tsushima. So now that Sony sees that Sucker Punch is a household name finally, they're going back into their catalog and saying, there hasn't been a Sly Cooper game in a long time. And yeah, there hasn't been an Infamous game since we launched the PS4. And honestly, Infamous could not come back at a better time. Sony is cleaning up with superhero games. They've got Spider-Man, they've got Spider-Man 2, they've got Miles Morales, they've got Wolverine. Why not throw in their own original IP that they actually full-on own, like Infamous? Now is the time to bring back Cole McGrath. I like Delzenro, thought he was a good character. I like his friend Fetch, I thought she was pretty cool. Honestly, I'd like to see her meet Cole McGrath. I know some of the endings of Infamous 2 kind of allude to him dying maybe, but they could bring him back, they could do something really cool. But let's be real here, if they bring back Infamous in a new game, they're probably gonna make a new character again, which, you know, kind of hurts. But if they did decide to go with Cole McGrath, I would really want them to remaster and clean up the first two Infamous games, because those were coming out before the PS3 got really popular towards the end of its life cycle. Infamous 2 came out very early in the PS3's life cycle, and I would like to see more people play it, because every time I would bring it up in college after I got it came out right after I graduated high school. Then I went to college and I would talk to people about this awesome game that I played over the summer called Infamous 2, and no one knew what it was, and it was such a bummer. So yeah, I really want Sucker Punch here to be making a new version of the first Infamous, bring back the main character, and also remaster the first two games, because people got to play those games. As far as Sly Cooper goes, I'm not as into that franchise. I got the collection when it came to PS3, and that was actually cool because if you 100%ed each game, you got a trailer for Sly Cooper 4, and that's how they announced it, which was actually something that Sony doesn't do all that often, and it was very interesting. Sly Cooper 4 I bought because it was one of the first games to use the cross-buy thing that they had for PS3 and Vita. So if you bought the PS3 copy of Sly Cooper 4, you also got a Vita copy, and I just thought that was so cool that I picked it up. I played through it. I thought it was pretty decent, but yeah, this is one where I don't know what they're gonna do. Are they gonna use the same Sly Cooper? Is it gonna be a direct Sly 5? Or is it gonna be a full-on reboot? Because we know Sony has been working on a Sly Cooper TV show or movie for a long time now. So I don't know if they'd want people to have to jump in at the 5th entry. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's really it for this big state of play as far as what rumored games could be shown off. We also know we're gonna see Hogwarts Legacy. I hope it's Metal Gear Solid 1 that's getting remade. I also hope these games are getting remade. Man, it would be great if Sony could just announce all three. Let's just call it there. Sony, announce a new Metal Gear Solid remake, announce Infamous, a new game, and announce a new Sly Cooper. Everyone will love you for that. So Sony's been ruffling people's feathers the last few months with these PS Plus offerings. We had a few months where they were really good. In the last few months, it's been a couple good games mixed in with a lot of bad. And the one that is causing the biggest controversy, surprisingly right now, is Ghost of Tsushima. So this month, March, on PS Plus, you can get the Ghost of Tsushima multiplayer mode Legends for free, but it's causing some problems if you redeem it on the PS5. So right now, if you own Ghost of Tsushima on PS4, there's an upgrade path that you have where you can get the PS5 version of the game with the Iki Island expansion for around $30. The price changes all the time, sometimes it's on sale, so the average price you're gonna pay for that upgrade is $30. But if you download this trial version of Ghost of Tsushima Legends, it makes it think that you already own the PS5 version of the game, and it removes the ability to buy that upgrade from the PS4 version. So if you have this Ghost of Tsushima Legends version in your PS Plus account and you want to upgrade your PS4 copy, you're going to have to pay the full $70, and then you're just getting the multiplayer mode that you already kind of paid for with your PS Plus subscription. That is not great. And honestly, I was kind of laughing when I read through the Reddit thread, because the way the person who had this happen to them figured it out is they had to email Sony, who then told them to get on the customer service chat, and then they had to say, yep, this new PS Plus version of Ghost of Tsushima Legends took away my ability to upgrade the PS4 version, and the only way to do that was for PlayStation to completely remove this PS Plus perk from this guy's account. Now that's crazy, because they should warn you before redeeming this copy if that's going to happen, because that's taking away a big discount, and B, this just shouldn't be happening at all. If you're getting the free PS Plus version and you want to upgrade, they could still charge you the $30, but just let you keep that Legends version at the very least and whatever perks come along with it. This is just absolutely crazy. And even if they do still give you the ability to get that upgrade from PS4 to PS5, I don't really really think that's good enough because you're still paying for the PS Plus subscription to get this free version of Ghost of Tsushima. There should be more of a discount to upgrade from the PS4 version to the PS5 version if you're already paying for PS Plus, or they should give you a better perk this month instead of Ghost of Tsushima Legends. And people were super curious about this when Sony called Ghost of Tsushima Legends a bonus game on PS Plus. Now we know why. They're not considering it a full-on game because they're still gonna charge you $30 to upgrade. Now, unfortunately, at the time of making this video, Sony has not responded, and if you go on the PlayStation Store, the issue is still there. Instead of calling this a standalone game, they're also calling this a Ghost of Tsushima trial, which is probably why it's making the PS5 think you own Ghost of Tsushima on the PS5 because you redeemed this trial version, but they're going to have to figure this out quick because I'm sure there are a ton of people playing this on PS4 because no one can get a PS5 right now, and they have no idea that if you're getting this free version of Legends, that it's screwing them out of getting a cheaper upgrade in the future. And who wants to pay $70 for a port of a PS5 game? I know I don't because I already paid $60 for Ghost of Tsushima. Either way, I'm going to keep an eye on what Sony says about this, and I will definitely make sure to update in a future video if they do say anything. So with the PS5 out now and the PSVR 2 coming out very soon, people are already looking forward to the PS5 Slim and potential PS5 Pro. And it seems like Sony is a lot farther along on the prototyping stage of these devices than we thought because they were actually shipping prototype units across the United States just a few months ago. So basically the way people were able to figure this out, they found the shipping ledger that said Sony is shipping PS5 prototype units from London all the way over to Norfolk, Virginia. I don't know why shipping internationally made this public information, but it's kind of crazy. They shipped 4 huge cases of PlayStation prototypes to Norfolk, Virginia. People were wondering why they're sending it to Virginia. That turned out to be like a halfway point to their headquarters in San Mateo, California. Now, if I was working at Sony and I was working on the PS5 Slim or PS5 Pro, or hell, even the PS5, and my prototype units were able to be tracked like this, I'd be pretty nervous, right? I would just keep them over in London. But yeah, it seems like they're farther ahead on the PS5 Slim than we thought. Now, as for when this device could be coming out, I would guess initially, like when the PS5 came out, I would have said probably around late 2022 or late 2023, but just seeing how crazy the stock shortage is on chips right now, how hard it is for them to get the regular PS5 into people's hands, I think we're probably going to be waiting until like 2024 or 2025 for this to actually start moving along and get into store shelves and into people's hands. Because of all these supply shortages on chips and all that, I think this generation is going to be a lot more like the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation. That one lasted almost 10 years or maybe even more, mainly because there was a recession right in the middle of that generation, which basically wiped out people's bank accounts, and all of these companies were scared to release a $300 or $400 device because no one would really turn up to buy it. So that's why the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation lasted as long as it did. Now, because of this stock shortage on chips, there's no way Sony can come out right now with a PS5 Slim and expect people to be able to buy it because all the people who still haven't been able to get a regular PS5 are going to be up in arms and super upset. They'll get a better deal in the long run, but that'll just create more scarcity for the PS5 as a whole because they would probably have to sell the original PS5 in addition to this Slim one and Pro one as well, just to get as many of them out there as possible. And then you've got too many options, there's not enough supply of any of them, people are going to be upset. If these aren't the PS5 Slim and PS5 Pro, it also makes sense for them to be the PSVR 2. This thing is apparently coming out towards the end of the year, so they probably already have prototypes made for that headset. So shipping it over from London to San Mateo, California to get at least a few of them in the main office, that's totally plausible to me. Especially since you look over at the Steam Deck, they were shipping dev units and prototypes around the same time frame as for when that thing is coming out right now. So yeah, I think the PSVR 2 is really ramping up to come out by the end of the year, and I really can't gauge excitement on this thing. Sony, I think, is doing a really bad job of marketing it. The only time they ever really show off this device is on the PlayStation blog with JPEGs. They haven't really shown us any gameplay other than the mediocre and underwhelming trailer for Horizon Call of the Mountain. I really think they need to figure out the marketing strategy for the PSVR 2 because as it stands right now, I don't see a lot of hype for it, and I don't see them doing any work to build that hype. So yeah, it's been a stagnant few months over at Sony in terms of hardware, but it looks like things are moving again, and hopefully they have figured out some way to start making more PS5s because I know a lot of people who are really mad that they can't get one almost a year and a half after the thing came out.